If I can see the next, if I could see the next slide, please. Let me just start here with the outline for today's session then. Expectations of curriculum mapping at FCCU. Number 2, domains of learning. I'll be turning it over to Dr. Mevish after I speak on the first one, and she'll be continuing with the
Thank you so much, Dr. Trimble. So in today's session, we are going to talk about the expectations for curriculum mapping at FCCU. And this we will do by discussing the expectations laid forward by HEC and also the findings from the NECHI visit. Secondly, we are going to unfold the learning domains, which every program learning outcome should have, or all programs wholesomely should have these domains of learning at FCCU. We are also going to take a look at the watermark and how, what role does it play in curriculum mapping. Lastly, we are going to take a look at all the available resources which are there to support the faculty and the academic leadership at FCCU to adhere to the expectations of curriculum mapping at FCCU. So now over to you, Dr. Trimble. And lastly, of course, we are going to have a discussion as Ifra already mentioned that there's going to be a discussion with the Vice Rector and the head of QEC, and also there will be representation of CLT. Dr. Rukhsana Zia is here with us, and I'll be available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. HEC has certain expectations of us in terms of what we are doing in our courses. They have the SAR, self-assessment report, that is generated by each of the departments. And as part of that, there's a protocol in terms of how departments are laying out what sort of things that they're doing, how they're meeting the expectations that are articulated in the self-assessment manual. Now, part of that we have to the HEC is asking us to define program objectives and outcomes. And it's where, this is where there's good synergy with what Watermark is doing and with what's happening in higher ed in the United States, which is looking at program learning outcomes. Not so much objectives. Objectives in American sense tend to be a little more optional. And then we want to then, as part of that HEC expectation, what's happening in the program needs to be related then to the student learning outcomes in courses. And we're doing that then. Really what NECHI is asking us to do then is to do this in all of our syllabi, all of our course outlines. And I'm going to use those terms interchangeably here. I guess just to review a little bit, in January 2024, we submitted a 100-page self-report to NECHI in our application for candidacy. In March, then a team of 6 individuals came, 5 in person and 1 virtually, that reviewed our self-study and with an eye toward, is it meeting the requirements for NECHI accreditation? And it was overall a very positive report that was given from the site visit team to the commission, but it did mention some things that we need to be working on. And one of these is what we're talking about today from the NECHI report. And this is the report that the team wrote, and we were able to receive that. The report done by the team had 3 audiences. One, of course, was was for our campus, and then the other, really 2 audiences, and the other audience being the commission in terms of their recommendations to the commission, whether we should be candidates or not. Okay, so let me read to you from that exit report, which I think is a large reason why we're having today's session. The team found that statements of learning outcomes among sampled syllabi was inconsistent and uneven. And so as part of the self-study, as part of the team's investigation, they sampled 67 syllabi. And as they looked through these course outlines, then they were looking for, did they have really the important components for syllabi to have? And one of the ones that they didn't find was this mapping of SLOs to PLOs, the student learning outcomes in the course, to those of the program. It was common for the majority of course outlines to simply relate course content. As such, there is significant room for improvement in developing outcomes across the levels of Bloom's taxonomy, with more sophisticated outcomes expected at higher level courses. Only a few syllabi linked course outcomes to program outcomes, which is a prerequisite for an effective program learning or for an effective program of outcomes assessment. Now, there's a couple of things here that I'm really asking for you as faculty then, is that when you are writing your SLOs, student learning outcomes for the courses, that they relate to these higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy, especially for our higher level undergraduate courses and our postgraduate courses. And we'll be talking about that a little later in this session. So that's one. Second of all is this linking between what's happening in the course to what's happening in the program. And I think that you'll find this to be relatively straightforward and not difficult to do. And it will be an easy and a helpful addition to all of our course outlines. And I think there's a little bit more at the bottom of this slide, please. Thank you. So we're expecting faculty to ensure alignment. Okay, this is what I just said for continuous improvement. Okay, over to you, Dr. Mevish.
Thank you so much, Dr. Trimble. So before we move ahead in this conversation, CLT has developed a Padlet for all of you because we are talking about a topic that is intertwined among the operations of CLT, QEC, and also vice rectors. So there is a Padlet that we have generated for all of you. In case you have a question for any one of us, please use the Padlet shelf that represents the particular person that you want to ask the question from. So moving on, given the fact that ST is adhering to the expectations of HEC and also complying with the expectations of NETCHI, there are 6 domains of learning which all programs which are offered at FCCU should project all of this. The entire spectrum should be covered in the program learning outcomes.
Dr. Mevish?
Yeah.
People are messaging that your voice is not clear, so maybe we can use different headphones if that's.
Sure.
Thank you.
Then I would have to disconnect my headphones. Please give me a minute.
Well, Dr. Mevish is doing it. Let me just mention something that I wanted to mention earlier, but I forgot. One is that in the syllabus template has a very helpful illustration about how to link then SLOs to PLOs. And so that'll be covered a little bit later in today's session. And secondly, also there's a CLT document that is very helpful on relating SLOs to PLOs. And that's called How to Develop Student Learning Outcomes and Program Learning Outcomes. And that is available from CLT as well. So I wanted to highlight those 2 things.
I'm having problems with my audio right now. I really didn't understand whatever you said, Dr. Trimble. So can I please get 2 minutes off from the screen to fix this problem, and I'll get back to the presentation.
Dr. Trimble, in the meantime, could you also clarify that though there is a mention of Bloom's taxonomy again and again in multiple forms, that Fink's taxonomy is actually what we ascribe to, and Fink and Bloom intersect. And you shared a very beautiful Syracuse University resource with us, which Mavish will be presenting later. But just in case there's no confusion because of that Bloom writing in the Nache statement that you said, perhaps a clarification would be helpful.
Is it possible to go to that slide?
Ifra, can you go back?
No, it'll be going forward in the presentation.
Yeah, just give me a minute.
It'll be going the other direction. It's maybe
Dr.
slide.
Mavish has access to the slides and just
If I unmute myself, is there echo in my voice?
It doesn't sound good.
Speak a little bit louder, Mavish. There is, your voice is very inaudible now. Dr. Trimble's voice is very clear. That's one of the comments.
All of a sudden, something has gone wrong with my headphones, and we are unable to find a replacement of these headphones. So I'll try to speak a bit louder. Which slide does Dr. Trimble want to see on the screen?
Dr. Mavish, would you like to come to my office and present from my office? The connection seems to be good here.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. If my voice is clear, she can do it also from my laptop.
Yes, your voice is clear.
Okay.
So there's a slide that we're going to be looking at later. I thought in the meantime, while Dr. Mavish is changing location, and I was wanting to show that, just mentioned that to you, that it's a very nice harmony between Bloom's taxonomy and Fink's domains of learning. And I think it's what it shows is that there's not any contradiction between Bloom and Fink. And in fact, that they come together quite nicely. Whereas Bloom is talking about the sort of domains that we want to cover in our program learning, our SLOs, our student learning outcomes at the course level. And Bloom is talking within those domains, then what are the sort of the hierarchy and the levels that we can look at that. Soon we should be able to see that slide. Well, we'll see that slide either now or a little bit later in the session. There we go. Okay, this is excellent. So what you see on the orange bar from left to right at the top then are these Fink's domains of learning. And hopefully none of this is new to anyone here. I think everyone has gone through, well, maybe some of the new faculty haven't got to this, but you will get to this in January. But this is covered in that workshop for new faculty in January every year. And so foundational knowledge, human dimension, caring, application, integration, and learning how to learn. These are the things that are so important for all of our students to be able to grow in our courses. And then on the vertical dimension, you see then, this is Bloom's taxonomy in blue, where we have the lower level declarative knowledge for at the bottom then, remembering and understanding, which is, they're fine, but they're not too terribly interesting. It's really the applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, which are the higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy that we want to emphasize as we are developing program or student learning outcomes. Well, either program learning outcomes or student learning outcomes. We want to emphasize these sort of things. And you see, these are all termed, worded in action ways, things that you can actually see if somebody were to come to walk into your office and you say to that person, that student right now, can you describe to me such and such? And if they can describe it to you, then you can actually see whether they did it right. You can't, as a student walks into your room, you can't use a verb like understand, because you say, please understand for me right now. And they can't show it to you because it's happening inside their brain. Or appreciate. If you ask them, can you right now appreciate for me such and such? It's happening inside their brain, and so you can't see appreciation or understanding. But these verbs, are all verbs that are things that you can actually see the student do. You can actually ask them to do to demonstrate that they have learned these things. And so these are the verbs that we want to be using, because these definitely we can definitely see what NETCHI's asking for us for doing in terms of higher order thinking in Bloom's taxonomy. Anything from applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, those are all higher order thinking skills. And then I love that this has a beautiful harmony then with the Fink Fink's domains of learning. So, Dr. Mevish, are you
so much.
over again?
I hope I'm audible now. Am I loud and clear, Ikra?
Yeah,
No,
I
honestly,
could hear you before as well, but I would ask.
Can you hear me now?
it's
No?
not an.
Okay. I'll then go and join the call from Dr. Roxana's room, because I don't know, I think that something has gone wrong with my computer maybe, because we have changed the headphones. Is it any better?
No.
No.
So I have like two big takeaways that I really hope from this session. And one of the takeaways would be that you would be using these sort of verbs. One, that you'd be using action verbs like you see on the screen right now. The second would be that you would be, well, in terms of these, that you would be covering each of the Fink's domains of knowledge. And let me also emphasize that this is something that the Academic Standards Committee is looking at when they're evaluating teaching effectiveness. It's not just student evaluations. That's part of the equation, but it's not. That's not even like maybe the major one. It's one piece of information. Another piece of information that we're looking at in that committee is what sort of learning outcomes have you articulated in your course outline? Are you covering Fink's various domains of knowledge, because everyone's been trained in this? Are you using challenging verbs? You're using those sort of upper, what do we call them? Intellectual skill verbs at the higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Are those reflected in your outcomes for your syllabi? So that's one thing that I'm hoping from this session. And the other big takeaway then is this linking that we'll see a little bit later. And it's really not rocket science. I really think that you'll be able to do this quite well. That you'll be able to link then the PLOs and the SLOs. And we have an example of that we'll see a little bit later. Dr. Mevish, have you been able to make the transition?
She just need 2 more minutes.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can. Oh, I can.
So what we are doing is I'm using my computer for presentation, and I'm using Dr. Roxana's computer for audio. So if it works like this, I think we are good for the presentation. Just give me a minute. Let me set up my equipment, and let's go back to the presentation.
So Ifra, are you controlling the PowerPoint then?
Dr. Mevish is still controlling the PowerPoint from her own computer.
That's fine. I was just going to say we should go back to the slide that she wants to use, but she can do that on her own. Very good.
Apologies for this entire, technology failure. I don't know what happened to my headphones, but anyways. So what we are talking about is, in addition to the program learning outcomes, one of the key attributes is to have a wholesome view of these 6 learning domains, which I'm going to take the audience through. Is there any kind of echo in my voice?
Yes, there is.
Is it any better? No.
Can you speak some more?
Hello?
Why don't you proceed? I think we can hear you.
All right. So the 6 learning domains that every program should project include content and theory of the discipline, methodology and skills rooted within the discipline, the application of knowledge in the real life, of course, higher order thinking skills. And this is where we integrate the Bloom's and Fink's taxonomies, because no matter whatever category faculty is planning, every program should project higher order thinking skills for the students. Then we have values, which also mean that there should be a reference made to the core values of FCCU. And lastly, every program should focus on the future, which means that everybody needs to question if the students understand what they have learned. Are they ready to apply the learned concepts in the professional field? And I think there is a lot of echo in my voice because my team keeps on pointing out that the voice is still not clear. And we are unable to figure out that what's the problem. How is this echo? How can we address this?
If you can mute any other computers that are nearby.
It have been muted. Okay. All right, let's see if it's better. I've tried to troubleshoot some more. Yeah. Okay, great. So finally, I've been successful. All right, so yeah, so this is the overall sphere in which the program learning outcomes need to project all the skills and competencies and knowledge that is imparted through different degree programs. Now, talking about Watermark and what role does it play in assessing the curriculum mapping, there is another interesting phenomena that needs to be known by all the faculty members, that within every roadmap of every degree program, there are courses which are meant to only introduce the conceptual knowledge, skills, which serve as the basic foundation of building onto students' knowledge. Then there are some courses that should reinforce the concepts. The 300 level courses usually and the 400 level courses, they should provide enough mastery to the students. And that is where the assessment kicks in. All the assessment that is shown in the Watermark assessment system is paired with the mastery level courses. It does not mean that the courses which are only on the introductory level or reinforcing level should not have any assessment. Those assessments, of course, are necessary, but those assessments are not assessing the program learning outcomes. This assessment that is listed here on this slide is the assessment of the program learning outcomes. I'm going to explain this to you by using the interface of Watermark, which I'm going to, of course, launch on my screen just a little later. I'm going to use the case of Department of Education for explaining that how the program learning outcomes are, should be envisioned. A big thanks to Dr. Martin and the entire team. A special thanks to Amar Khan, who facilitated CLT by providing his login details. And we will be using Amar's login to take you through the degree roadmap and also to show how Watermark enables faculty to basically track the curriculum mapping. So, firstly, the program mission statement is developed. there is enough training that has been provided from the QEC to academic leadership. Key areas from the program mission statement are highlighted, and around these key areas, the program learning outcomes are developed. The program learning outcomes should project of course, the 6 learning domains that we have just discussed in the previous slide. The course code determines the course content, but the course content is that is not the student learning outcomes. The student learning outcomes should be aligned to the course content, and of course, they should be defined within the umbrella of program learning outcomes. Now, the domains for program learning outcomes, which we discussed in the previous slide, are content, methods and skills, application, higher order thinking skills, values, and future considerations. Based on this, there are program learning outcome progression levels. Every course should provide some sort of progression within the content of the program course. So there have to be a certain stream of subjects which is just introductory in nature, certain streams which are just reinforcing the concepts and the skills, and then comes the mastery level and assessment level. Now we are going to move on to the interface of Watermark, and we'll talk about that. What is Watermark? How does it help the academic leadership and faculty at FCCU? How often this data is updated, and what is the role of the faculty in this entire process? I'm sure that all of you can see on your screens the interface of Watermark. So, all right. When you log on to Watermark, the interface is the home page, and there are program assessment teams in every department. So on the left-hand panel, there's organization and management. I've already opened up these tabs to save time. So within each faculty, all the list of the degree programs that they offer are listed here. For example, in case of education, there is BS of Education and MPhil Education. Now, if we want to take a look at, just a second, if you want to take a look at the courses, I would just want to share that with you. So when you click on any one of the degree program, the next thing that you see is these are all the details about this particular degree program. So on the left-hand panel, you once again have curriculum, program information. So just here in the curriculum, you have the curriculum map option. When you click the edit curriculum map, that's where you see that what is the range of different courses offered by this faculty. Where are they introducing the basic concepts? How are they reinforcing the concepts and mastering the concepts, also coupled with the assessment? These are the program learning outcomes listed on the left-hand side. You can see that these very clearly reflect the prescribed domains of learning in different words, of course, but they talk about individual values in terms of self-regulation. They talk about the future preparedness of students in terms of career path. There are learning outcomes that talk about application of pedagogical skills, practicing research skills. So all of these are very well aligned with the FCCU's 6 domains of learning. And this is how Watermark can be used to map connections between program learning outcomes and student learning outcomes. With this, I'm going to go back to my presentation. And just to update you that this data is updated only once every year. The spring and fall semesters results are updated on this platform only once, that is during spring. All faculties are supposed to accomplish this by the start of spring semester. This is what we got to know by QEC. And the role of faculty is very, of course, it's crucial, because faculty are the ones who are planning SLOs. So all this introductory level courses are introductory level because faculty plans SLOs which are of that nature. And that is why the program learning outcomes should be very well reflected in the student learning outcomes. So faculty is the main player in all of this. Now, I would like to take you through the available resources. Here we are talking about a syllabus template. So this is the syllabus template, which is a resource developed by CLT for the faculty. The link of this resource will be shared with you in the meeting chat. Yeah, so this document talks about the syllabus course outline. It gives you the space to talk about your course name, the course code. It also has space to list your program learning outcomes. This is an example by Dr. Trimble. He has listed the program learning outcomes here. And while developing the student learning outcomes, there is a clear indication that because it's a 100 level course and it's an introductory course, so PLO3 is not a part of this course outline. And if you look back at the program learning outcome number 3, then it's talk about application or the future preparedness of students to apply this knowledge in real world. So this is one resource which is available. It also hyperlinks many other resources for your ready reference. For example, there is a resource embedded in this document that talks about different assessment styles. There is another resource which is embedded in this document that talks about how to replace traditional teaching with remote teaching. And then in the end, it also talks about out-of-class activities. There is a time calculator which is embedded for the faculty. Many other resources are hyperlinked, so we strongly encourage you to use this template. It's editable. You can download it and use it for your course planning. The next thing that I want to talk about is, yeah.
Can I interject here?
Sure.
If we can go back to the example of the PLOs and SLOs on the syllabus template. Thank you. So this is one of the key takeaways that I want to emphasize. And this is what NETCHI is asking for in that letter. They're wanting to see that in the syllabi, the PLOs are listed. And just for the sake of convenience, we put in one that I had used at a previous institution. So they want to see the PLOs there. And then they want to see what are the SLOs that you have for your course. And so I think all of you have the SLOs for your courses, but they just want to see SLO number 1, or the first one, which PLO does it match to? The second one, the second of your SLOs, which PLO does it match to? And then the third one, which one does it match to? And so the SLOs that you have for your courses, it's just a simple linking then of, in parentheses, you can say this links to this one above. And so students can see exactly then, and accreditors and whomever is examining this document, students can see that the things that they're learning in this course are contributing to their development of the outcomes that we have articulated for them in that program. And so it's really just a very mapping then of, and if you find that one of your SLOs doesn't contribute to one of the PLOs of the program, you might reconsider that SLO. Or as a department, you might say, well, we need to make sure that there's a PLO that is that matches, that we are teaching toward. So those sort of conversations can be helpful. So this is one of the major outcomes. This is actually the key for me in terms of why I asked for this session to be done, so that everyone sees the mapping then of the SLOs to the PLOs. So back to you, Dr. Mevish. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Trimble. Thank you for clarifying that. Now that we are talking about PLOs and SLOs, of course, CLT has a resource ready for the faculty. This is a guiding document that is meant to support you in designing structured and meaningful PLOs and SLOs. So basically, you develop SLOs in a way that they align clearly with the program learning outcomes. There are attributes of good student learning outcomes. Then we also have shared another resource, which is an intersection of Bloom's taxonomies and the Fink's taxonomy. It also talks about the components of SLOs, which very closely match with what with the expectations of FCCU. You'll be talking about performance, the learning environment, and the criteria for assessment. The SLOs need to be experiential in nature. They should be student-centered and outcome-based for easy tracking and measurement. As you go further in this document, it makes a clear relationship with the Watermark progression levels, which is introductory, reinforced, master, and assessment. Moving on, there is another new idea, which is, which CLT wants all of you to take away as food for thought, is degree qualifications profile. Now, many institutes have the graduating competencies or a graduating student's profile, which clearly states that at the end of the degree, what the students should be able to do once they are ready for the job market or for further education. Of course, this is not for PhD level, but for postgraduate and undergraduate level degree programs, there should be a vision for our graduating students. And based on that, of course, one can always review the program learning outcomes and identify gaps. If there is something that the present job market or the future job market mandates for the students to be able to do, and if it is not reflected in our program learning outcomes, then it means that there is a need to update the program learning outcomes. There are many programs which still don't have a program vision statement listed, or at least listed in a document that we received from QEC. So maybe, this can be a good starting point for those departments and for those program leaders to think about the graduating student profile. Both of these documents are available for your review and use. So please use these. And with this, I'm going to go back to my presentation. So this is the last resource that we wanted to talk about, and Dr. Trimble has already explained this to you and how this is extremely beneficial for you to understand, to cross-link the competencies for developing your student learning outcomes. Moving back to the Padlet that we had, I would request Ifra to please display the Padlet link on her screen and share it with you all. The floor is now open for questions and comments. And thank you again for bearing with this, technical glitch that we had at our end. Thank you so much for your patience. So Ifra, over to you.
I've shared the link for Padlet in the comments. You can access it and start posting your questions.
So we have a comment here which mistakenly has been posted as a new shelf, in which the post author says that they need access to department level analysis of course outlines by NECHI. I think the Vice Rector's office is the right point place for this particular query, because CLT does not have access to the NECHI report and especially the department-wise findings. In the meanwhile, I request my team to please scan the chat and also indicate if there are any questions, especially for Dr. Trimble or for the head of QEC, Sarah.
So let me just say that there was not, and NECHI didn't give us a department-wise analysis. They didn't even do all departments. They took a random, not a random, but they had some selected departments that they asked, and they looked through syllabi in those departments. It was a focused analysis that they did. And they wanted to see what they were looking for, but they don't have, they didn't do every department, and they didn't do even a random sampling of all of our departments.
So far we don't have any questions.
I can talk about assessment in Watermark in this course assessment. I don't have all of you.
So Dr. Roxana has a question
The chat.
in the meeting chat. I'm trying to
I can read it out.
do that.
Okay. Is assessment in curriculum mapping same as course assessment developed during course designing?
The 4 categories, mastery.
So
All
I
right.
think
Not the same.
Yeah.
I would take the opportunity to answer this. Assessment in curriculum mapping is the assessment of the program learning outcome, not the course, student learning outcome. Within the course, we teach many concepts. And within each course, there are also progression levels within the content that we teach. So every course, be it a 400 level course or a 300 level course, it starts off with the basic knowledge or recall of prior learning and then builds on it. So instructors may have assessments for all those different levels of progression, but then overall, which courses determine that a certain program learning outcome has been accomplished by the instructors as well as by the students. So that's what assessment is when we look at Watermark. That's what Watermark considers assessment. So it's not the course-based assessment. I hope I've been able to explain it. Good. So going back to our Padlet, we have a few comments here where, of course, you are asking for resources. We have another comment. What is the procedure of approval if we revise our program learning outcomes? I think it starts with on the department level, where your program learning outcomes should be reviewed by the faculty, and then it should go to the Board of Studies. After that, it should be submitted for, of course, the board's approval in the academic council, and only then it is applicable. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the process that departments need to follow for making any revisions in their program learning outcomes.
I don't think that those come before the academic council. I think that can be done at the Board of Studies level and then communicated to the QEC so that they can be changed in Watermark.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. We have another comment. Who is the go-to person for each of the faculty department who could be consulted for verifying or amended course outlines? I think it's very similar to what we have just answered. So, is there anything else that Dr. Trimble you want to add?
In terms of course outlines, we want them to have certain elements in them while also maintaining academic freedom, because you are the experts in terms of what needs to be covered in the course. We want to make sure that we're meeting sort of the minimum number of things that NETCHI is looking for, and I think we've articulated those now, as well as what HEC is looking for. But in terms of the actual courses that are being taught, those syllabi and the course outlines are the prerogative of the faculty member to teach that course well. Of course, making sure that whatever is approved by the academic council for the course description of the course is adhered to, and those what's in the course catalog then is covered in that course.
May I add, the syllabus template is a very comprehensive format for thinking about your course, but that does not mean that you shy away from certain categories, because that's when you discuss with your students that information is very comprehensive and it will help your students to focus on their work. Nevertheless, the activities and assessments and so much more is your prerogative as an autonomous faculty professional that you are. You try, if there are some areas where you think you could do better and need help, we are always here at CLT, and we'll be happy to help you or sort of do a one-to-one consultation about that. Short of that, it is not a job to monitor if you're doing all that you have to, or you're expected to do. But for NETCHI requirements, that will become conditional, I think, and is mandatory to follow so that we can all achieve the NETCHI accreditation. Thank you.
Everyone, we're also going to start the polling. So while the question and answers are happening, you can start the polling. Thank you.
The last comment that we have here on the Padlet is somebody has asked if it is essential to relate everything in the weekly breakdown to PLOs and SLOs. So in my understanding, everything that faculty members are doing in a planned manner with their students should accomplish any one of the student learning outcomes that they have already put out in their course outline. And all these student learning outcomes should reflect the program learning outcomes. So in an unsaid way, whatever you're doing in your courses relates to the program learning outcomes. And this is exactly what we are emphasizing here, that there has to be a chain which should be visible for the readers, that how your program learning outcomes are trickling down and reflecting in the student learning outcomes, and that further how it reflects in the out-of-class activities and in-class activities and your syllabus outlines.
Yeah, good.
So thank you so much for participating in today's session. You have the session evaluation in front of you on your screens. Please take a minute to vote for the to evaluate this session. And then if you have any further comments, please post in the meeting chat. Thank you again. We are going to end this call in the next 2 minutes.
We'll also keep the Padlet open. So if you want to ask any questions, you can also post them there.
Thank you again.
I could just take one quick moment here and just mention that as I was looking at just now as we were looking at the syllabus template, one of the things I noticed is that the example we have from my previous institution although it's helpful to show the linking between the PLOs and the SLOs, what it doesn't do is reflect defink. And so I think that what we need to do is get a better example in the syllabus template that reflects the domains of learning that we want for defink. And so I think that I'll work with Dr. Roxana on this so that we can get a better example for you there that reflects our local situation better.
Yeah, that's video listening. Yeah, Dr. Trimble heard it loud and clear, will do. The computer that I have doesn't have a video and audio, so coming back to this. So well pointed out, Dr. Trimble. I did not realize that. Thanks a lot for alerting me.
And thank you so much. We have a technical catastrophe at CLT right now, but we have managed to pull this session. Thank you so much for your patience. So we both are working in the same room and using the same computer while I'm using a different device to present of course, the resources, because I had opened up all the resources on a different device. The last thing I had on my mind was this running into this kind of technical glitch. So thank you so much, and we wish you a good day ahead of you. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your attendance and your participation.